Call to order the city council meeting for Monday, May 13th, 2019. Roll call.
Austin.
Here.
Grover.
Here.
Novacek. Here. Matthias. Here. McGrath. Here. Tulowitzki. Here. Minus.
Here. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is approval of minutes. I would like to approve the minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the minutes of April 8 and April 16, 2019.
Is there a second? Any questions or comments or corrections? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Second is the approval of monthly expenditures. Your roll call. Is there a motion to approve the monthly expenditures?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the monthly expenditures as reviewed.
Yes. Second.
Second.
All in favor and roll call?
Austin.
Yes.
Grover.
Yes.
Novacek.
Yes.
Matthias.
Yes.
McGrath. Yes. Minus.
Yes.
Tulowitzki.
It's time for public comment. We have a lengthy agenda. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening.
Please state your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Jeff Silver from 510 Fifth Avenue East, Washburn. I'm here to reintroduce you to some information I sent you. I'm asking for your support on the climate change resolution that the county has already passed. And I appreciate very much if we could get on the agenda for Washburn's next meeting. I sent you a packet via email, and some of you got hard copies. We have some of the information on it. If you have any questions in the ensuing month, please give me a call. I think I have the phone number on there. And this is a resolution similar to what the Bayfield County passed last month by a vote of 10-1. It was heartily accepted. 35 people showed up in the audience, about 10 or 12 spoke in favor of it. And when this resolution passed 10-1, there was a resounding applause from the people in the audience. This is broad support. It is a climate change resolution speaking in favor of our policy, supporting the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act, also known as HR 763. It's a bipartisan bill, and should have broad support. And I found some information from the previously. 2 years ago, we did a letter to our politicians, our state and federal politicians, Senator Johnson, involved in support of some action on climate change. And I was in charge of Washington. I got over 20 signatures from area businesses and our elected leaders in the city of Washington to sign on. Most everybody who signed on thanked me for bringing it together to sign on. So this is a broad support. And what I'd like to do is ask you to put this on the agenda for the June meeting. Call us if you have any questions. I'd like to introduce our area leader of the Shawarma Climate Change Lobby. That's Bill Bussey. He's a longtime Bayfield County resident. And if you would permit him, in the June meeting, we have a short, very informative PowerPoint. Really answers a lot of questions and crystallizes some of the issues. This is Bill Bussey. We hope to see you in a month.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm Bill Bussey, 84770 Lakeshore Drive in Bayfield. I'm a retired attorney from Bayfield. Certainly know some of you. In my retirement, I'm serving as group leader for the Shawamian chapter of Citizen Climate Lobby. That's a nonprofit, nonpartisan citizens organization of ordinary citizens concerned about climate change. There are over 450 chapters all across the United States, one in Wisconsin and one right up here in Chequamegon Bay. And the focus of our group is to try to get Congress to pass effective legislation to address climate change. And we think in order to get that done, we really need support from community leaders, from grass tops folks like you. That's what we refer to our local leaders as grass tops rather than the grassroots. We think that's what it's going to take to get Congress to act here. As Jeff has mentioned, the Bayfield County Board has passed a resolution in support of this bill that's pending in Congress right now. We've met with the Aston County Executive Committee. We'll be on their next county board meeting seeking Aston County Board support. We'll be meeting with the Bayfield City Council this coming Monday. We'll also be seeking support from the city of Ashland, the Red Cliff and Bad River tribes. And then we'll branch out to surrounding counties, Douglas and Iron and Price. So we really appreciate the chance to make a presentation to you, seeking your support. I noted in looking at a resolution that the city of Washburn might consider that the city is actually the first city in the United States to become an eco-municipality, embracing sustainability. This was back in about 2006. First city in the country, so it'd be wonderful to have your support for this sort of legislation. We'd really appreciate a chance to be on the agenda next month. Thanks.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Phil Bailey, 33430 Whiting Road in Town of Bayview. I'm with Check Bay Renewables, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what we call a Tab 9, the solar project, the wastewater treatment plant. The city is one of 4 local institutions that have joined together. We plan to install a total of 665 kilowatts of solar PV. If all the projects move forward, they will annually generate over 822,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. This is equivalent to eliminating 635,000 pounds of coal from being burned. It is an unprecedented level of local cooperation, a statement of environmental responsibility, and a commitment to reaching the goals that the city of Washburn established. The city administrator has expressed 3 primary concerns that you should consider. They are: 1, the solar might be oversized if energy efficiency measures are put in place. My comment. At the current electric use of the sewer plant, the solar would offset 28% of that usage. If energy efficiency measures reduce the consumption by 50%, the solar would offset 56%, not even close to being oversized. Number two, solar comes at the expense of other upgrades and improvements. Comment. You should spend the money on energy efficiency measures because they will pay for themselves. Likewise, you should invest in solar because it will pay for itself. Each project will improve the financial situation, not detract from each other. Solar is unlike other investments because it generates electricity. That electricity has a monetary value, which in turn pays for the investment. Number three, there will be a projected $2,000 annual cash shortfall in the first 4 years and a little over $1,000 cash shortfall in the next 3 years. Comment. This would be reduced in half if you don't have to use the $21,000 contingency fund, which is included in those numbers. Without it, the project is cash flow neutral by year 5, after which time money begins to accumulate, and there's a $113,000 surplus at year 25. The contingency fund should not be necessary to use in this type of project. In addition, your other community leaders are hopeful that you will proceed with the project. The other projects have tiered pricing, and to get the volume discount, all projects need to move forward. If you choose not to move forward, your decision could impact the Washburn School District, Bayfield County, and the Greater Bayfield Wastewater Treatment Plant. In total, it would add nearly $27,000 in additional costs to their projects. Eagle Point Solar has stated that they will be using local labor, creating jobs, and has offered a generous maintenance package to ensure seamless solar generation in years to come. I encourage the City Council to accept Eagle Point Solar's bid and authorize the necessary funding. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Please step forward.
My name is Diane Posner, and I reside at 119 North 9th Avenue West. I was elected president of the Friends of the Washburn Public Library at our January meeting, and I'd like to use my 3 minutes to give you a brief update of Friends activity. Beginning later this week, we'll be selling quote raffle tickets. The drawing will be during the library holiday open house in December, and you'll be able to see the quote at the library in just a few days. Our next Friends meeting will be Thursday, May 23rd at 10 a.m. in the library basement, where we will be discussing the following fundraisers. All profits from these fundraisers will be going towards the library touchpoint project. On June 15th, in conjunction with the citywide garage sales, we will be having a big book sale and running sale in the library basement. We also plan on having a light lunch available for big book. On Saturday, July 27th, during Brownstone Days, we are planning the Baby Brewers Ball at St. Louis Hall from 4 to 7 o'clock. There'll be a DJ playing music from the good old days, food and fun, and you won't have to stay up past the bedtime. On Saturday, September 21st, there will be a gala fundraiser at the library from 5 to 8 o'clock p.m. Maria from Cafe Coco will be serving hors d'oeuvres and mini desserts. There will be raffles and silent auction and music upstairs and downstairs. Come dressed as a famous literary character and you could win a prize. Tickets will be $25 if you buy them early and $30 at the door the night of the event. In October, the Friends will be serving homemade chili again for Lovely Days, which I believe will be Saturday, October 26th. People will think of love their Washburn Public Library. I have a great deal of respect for how busy everyone is. So the new Friends mantra or message I send is, no monthly meetings, no yearly dues, just help when you can. For the past few years, I've worked to build a Friends group email based on that approach, as I want really enthusiastic volunteers. We now have over 50 people, and I would like that number to continue to grow. There are so many wonderful things going on in our community. Everyone has their own interests, and no one can do everything. But I like to think that everyone can do something. Maybe you can only help with one event a year. Maybe you can't do that, but you can attend the event or contribute financially. Even spreading the word or sharing on Facebook can help. Thank you for your time and what you do for your community.
Anyone else like to speak? Try to fix the mics or just speak very loudly.
No, Mike?
Speak very loudly.
Okay, my name is Brian Flag. I live at 210 Woodland Drive. And I just got a comment about that proposed dog park in our neighborhood coming up. We kind of canvassed the neighborhood here. And, we do not want, nor we accept the noisy, dirty things that in our neighborhood. We've already got problems with barking dogs up there and noise complaints. I, for one, has called the police department several times to remove barking dogs, can't sleep. I think zoning might, I don't know what the zoning law is exactly, but it kind of precludes dog parks, racetracks, and things like airports in a residential area. So we are coming out vehemently opposed to that, and we certainly hope that no tax dollars from our city are going to fund such what I think is a foolish venture, no matter where it goes. Anyway, we would absolutely don't want it. We're vehemently opposed, and we would even mount a legal challenge if necessary, either block it or remove it after the fact. So we're very serious about our neighborhood not wanting that. We want to go on record as the residents of Woodland Drive opposing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Anyone else? Okay. Sorry about the microphone. Quite what's wrong. Next item is announcement. There's still vacancy on the Harbor Commission, but I see in our packet we had a resignation from the Housing Authority. Karen Gusky has resigned, and I am nominating Christy Yent to be the replacement on the Housing Authority. I would like confirmation. Is there a motion to confirm Christy Yent for the Washburn Housing Authority?
Mayor, I would move approval of Christy Dent for the Housing Authority position.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you. And we have quite a few proclamations this week, so please bear with us. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas in 2019 it is the 147th anniversary of the holiday, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, provide habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, healthy perennial foods, while beautifying our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Richard Abel, Mayor of the City of Washburn, do hereby proclaim Thursday, May 9th, 2019, as the 147th anniversary, the celebration of Arbor Day in the City of Washburn. I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. And last week was the Week of the Young Child, whereas the National Association for the Education of Young Children celebrated the Week of the Young Child April 8th through April 12th, 2019. And whereas the school district of Washburn and the Washburn community are working to improve early learning opportunities, which are crucial to the growth and development of our young children and to building better futures for everyone in this Washburn community. And whereas all young children and their families across the country and Washburn deserve access to high quality education and care. And whereas our citizens are demonstrating their commitment to a more sustainable earth, stronger communities, and a healthier, more productive learning environments for all young children and their families. And whereas recognizing and supporting the people programs, policies that are committed to a high quality early learning, early childhood education as the right choice of children, I, Richard Abel, proclaim in the City of Washburn, we hereby proclaim May 6th through 10th, 2019 is the Week of Young Child in Washburn, and encourage all citizens to work, make a good investment in early childhood in the Washburn community. And where there's going to be more, National Skilled Nursing Care Week. Whereas the citizens of Washburn and area communities now residing in nursing homes have contributed immeasurably to the heritage, success, and growth of our community, and whereas nursing home residents of any age or ability are themselves living history and a precious resource, and whereas nursing homes across the nation are holding events in observance of National Skilled Nursing Care Week, guided by this year's national theme of Live Soulfully, to show how they achieve happy minds and healthy souls. And whereas National Skilled Nursing Care Week begins on Mother's Day, May 12th, and ends May 18th, 2019. Therefore, I, Richard A. Wall, as mayor of Washburn, declare May 12th to 18th, 2019 as National Skilled Nursing Care Week in the city of Washburn. And we have National Police Week. I'll abbreviate this, is a very long one. The Congress and the President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week of May 13th dedicates to the National Police Week. And whereas the members of law enforcement agencies for the city of Washburn play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the city of Washburn, and whereas it is important for all citizens to know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of the law enforcement agency, and the members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. I do hereby proclaim this week as National Police Week. It is also the EMS Proclamation Week, whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of the emergency medical services team are ready to provide life-saving care to those who need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate for those who experience sudden illness and injury, I, Richard A. Wall, Mayor of the City of Washburn, recognize this week as the EMS Proclamation Week. It is Foster Care Provider Appreciation Month, and in general, I'll just say that this is declared this week as the Foster Care Appreciation Month. And also, I've been informed it was also Teacher Appreciation Week and National Small Business Association Week. These things maybe go on, but they are important and something to think about. And it is a sense of community, and these people are all very important members of our community, and we should really respond and be appreciative of all those people. I will end it at that. Next is discussion on action on amending the minutes of March 11, 2019 City Council meeting. There's an item in your agenda. Is there a motion to amend the minutes as per the council line?
So Mayor, I move approval of the amended comments to the May 11th meeting. I also reviewed the recording of the meeting and believe that the statement included in our packet is an accurate reflection of what the constituents stated at the March 11th meeting. So I do move approval of that amendment. Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. So we're having a public hearing and discussion action on resolution 19.003 to vacate all alleys in blocks 18 and 23 of the DuPont Parks addition to the city of Washburn. James Bradley and Deborah Barnhart petitioners. And so I hear a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
The second?
I'll second.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak to the public hearing on this issue? Anyone like to speak? Hearing none, is the motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
The second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
You have the item in your packet to vacating resolution 19.003. It has been in front of the council and the plan commission. You have their notes. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? a while, but we got it done. Thank you. Next is discussion and action on Plan Commission recommendation to approve a conditional use permit for manufacturing and commercial area C3 zoning district, operate a sewing business in accordance with the regulations of 8-476 out of the property located 324 West Bayfield Street. Amy Trimbo, petitioner, and I believe I saw Amy in the audience. Here she is in back if you have questions. Is there a motion to approve? Do you have the information from the Plan Commission?
So moved. Second.
Moved in second. Any questions or comments?
And one other comment to make of this, is that it is also in the downtown design overlay district, so it must be consistent with Article 14 of the zoning code as well. As far as the plans are submitted, they are also consistent.
So our attorney says it is consistent with consideration. So is there a vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes, Nancy. Go forth, Amy. Congratulations. Next is discussion action on proposed certified survey map. Gary Holman, petitioner. You have the information in your packet. Mr. Holman would like to do this parcel on West 12th Street between North 5th Avenue West and North 8th Avenue West. Would like to be restored to two separate parcels as was originally platted. Scott, do you have any comment on this?
No additional comment.
Is there a motion to approve Mr. Holman's request?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Next, we have presentation on plans for historic civic center, action on request for support and grant writing for facility. Cope Lindsay, president of the Historic Civic Center Foundation, petitioner, and Ms. Lindsay is right here at the podium. So, Cope, you want to make comments first?
Yeah, I have just a few things I wrote up here. So, I'm Cope Lindsay, president, I think in my address, 79330 Howell Road, Washburn. President of the Historic Civic Center Foundation. We have a new board of directors as of January, and those board members are Jeff Anderson, Mary Mokiff, Data Bodine, Kelsey Lindsay, Ariana Austin, Felix Kalinowski, and we also have 4 very wise advisors of Ken and Jane Weiler and Peter and Carla Bremner. These 4 were very instrumental in saving this building from being torn down. They and others collected over 800 signatures from the citizens of Washburn saying they wanted to save the building, and they did. The vision of this new board is to reopen this building in its former capacity as a recreational and community center, providing youth programs, summer recreation programs, senior meeting place, after-school programs, and of course, the ever-popular open gym time. We plan to open it in phases as we have the funding. Our first goal is to get the first floor open and hopefully have the first and second floors open by next homecoming. We are in the process of getting the state plan revised with CNS design as the one that had been done previously expired. We should have that by mid-July, and to get the first floor open, it pretty much, it's like the ADA bathroom, exit signs, handrails, panic hardware, some steps in to reinforce the front steps. So we have an energized group. One of the things that has been energizing me is it doesn't take long for people to find out you're president of something, and they've been stopping me on the street and telling me how excited they are that the club is going to reopen. I think there's a big need for recreation in this town, as seen by the emphasis from the Jackie Fields mom. I think there's a little boom or a little energy going for providing more for our youth and seniors. One of the most asked needs, people say, can you have it open in the winter so we can walk? I mean, something that simple is something that I think means a lot to people in the city. So we have a Facebook page. It's called the Old DuPont Club, and we're going to try to put updates on that. And also July 16th, our group will be presenting the history of the DuPont Club at the Tony Woyak History Festival.
All that said, I'm really here today to just ask for the council for a letter of support that we can use when applying for grants or seeking other funding. I think it's very important for anyone we approach about money, know that the city's behind it. So with that, is there any questions?
Hi. Yes, I'm curious if you want to make any announcement about how people can get involved now and how to, as we,
Yeah,
very exciting.
The one thing that we want to do is to actually let people volunteer too to help fix this building. And like I said, we just have this new board in January, and we're really still trying to get all our ducks in a row, so to speak. And I think we've gotten a little bit ahead of ourselves, but that's one of the things on our agenda. And like every time I drive by and see the peeling paint on those columns, I'm thinking, people in this community know how to paint. But we're going to get a list, and we're going to try to have some work days. And we're also going to be part of the citywide garage sale with the History Consortium, the 4 groups. So we're going to try to raise a little money with that, but also be part of the consortium. But no, we want local people's help. We're trying to do as much as we can in-house. One of our board members, Felix Kalinowski, is here. Both of us are retired engineers, and we're trying to do some of the in-house engineering so we don't have to farm it out on some of the bid specs for some of the projects. We'll see how we do with that. It's a little bit overwhelming, but we're just going to take small projects we can handle and then try to fund them and just keep going to the next project instead of just saying, we need $1 million. We're going to do them in manageable chunks. At least that's the plan now. And as we get that plan more set or determined, we certainly will be looking for people to help and volunteer and wet labor too.
Is there a motion by council members to support this organization for this idea?
I would so move.
Second.
Have we worked on an actual letter at a later time? Is this letter in here? Yes. So this is the letter we would have to, okay. I'm sure that was correct.
Yeah.
So this is in support of this letter that's in the packet. So the motion and second. Any other questions or comments for either Coke or in general?
Oh, I have a comment. I just think it's an exciting plan, and I'm glad that there's a new board that has that energy and vision to move forward, and congratulations.
I'm very excited about it too, but I'll have to admit the last few days it has woken me up at night. Like, this is a big plan. But we're going to get it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Did you take our signage sheets?
Yes, I did.
Did you leave them, please? I may need them.
Okay. Next is discussion action on request of Wisconsin DOT to reconstruct State Highway 13 Bayfield Street in the city of Washburn from Thompson Street to Superior Avenue in 2024. There is a note, memo from our city administrator in your packet. And Scott, do you want to make any other comments at this point?
Other than recommend that this item be acted on at this meeting. If we do delay it, we'll delay the project 2 years because we're already behind the schedule as far as the DOT is concerned. And it's going to be very important that if this is approved, that we begin the process of working with the community and the businesses and residents of the corridor that would be constructed as to how this would impact them and how we begin to address that as well. Of course, the biggest part here is the financial implication of this. This would be, at this point, our best estimate is a $5 million project. What would that actually mean? What does that, say $5 million, and no one really has a concept as to what does that mean for me personally. If that were put onto the tax roll with no assistance and a standard 20-year bond on that, that would increase everyone's property taxes 34%. Now, do I think that that is what we need to do, or should we know? but this issue does relate to several other agenda items that we'll be discussing tonight. Everything ties together. And we have been working on our financial plan for several years. The city will be retiring a lot of debt in the coming years, anticipating that we would be needing to take out a new borrowing for a significant project. However, that's not going to cover this entire expense. Economic development needs to occur to help offset, and that was part of the financial plan that our fifth district was put into place in 2015 to have taxable development within the city. In my opinion, we have not been doing a very good job on that. So that is a topic that we'll be discussing later in the meeting. We will, of course, seek any sort of grant assistance that may be, but that will take time and effort as well. The utilities under Bayfield Street need to be replaced, or we'll continue to have issues with main breaks, potential sewer collapses. It is not a good situation. We do have our public works and utility staff, and I will defer if they have any other additional comments to make.
I do use the microphone. And for those who don't know, say the name, please.
Yeah, Bob Anderson, Public Works Director. The timing of this is crucial. We met with DOT, and if they're going to reconstruct Bayfield Street, that is the time we're going to replace the utilities. The worst case scenario would be the DOT would do their job, and we would come on behind them and open up the road again. So I think it's just super important that we team up with the DOT, and that would save the city a lot of money as well, and it would reduce impact to everybody involved. That's something that's important.
Yeah, I'd just like to emphasize too that I'm a utility operator. And I've noticed over the last year and a half since I've been here that there is some serious issues with Bayfield Street. Not just with the water, sewer, all your storms, curb, gutter. And, you know, if you think about it, the window to your city is right out here. And I think working with DOT and trying to get grant money available and get the right engineers work for us, I think we can make this happen. It really brighten up your city. At the same time, I would even emphasize, you know, look at the lighting. If the money's available, I think go for it. But I've been on several main breaks now in Bayfield Street, and I'm here to say it's an old cast iron main. It wasn't vetted properly. Get ground shift. Cast iron doesn't just, it shears off. And we've had some issues this last March. And it was prior to. And sewer mains, brick manholes, they're quite impressive to see. When you put a lot of time into it. But they're probably done back in the 40s and 50s, and it's time to, I'm concerned about a collapse. You see bricks come through the sewer system. Anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you.
And storm sewer too. I just want to emphasize, most of our catch basins out here, a lot of them are collapsing. Thank you.
So we have a draft letter, we'll ask for your approval to send this draft letter that our city administrator has come up with to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. Is there a motion to approve? Second. Is there any other questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next. We have discussion and action on capital improvement in the wastewater treatment plant and capital improvement plan. So you have a list here in your binder. We've gone through that. I think it was a very good exercise for the crew to go through this, so we know what we're looking at. Give us an idea. of what we need to have happen. Is there a motion to approve this plan?
So,
Any questions or comments on this? Scott?
Yes, I have comments. So in this list, there are a number of things that you should be aware of. For the most part, in an ideal situation, the utilities should be able to fund most of these smaller items. The larger items, they will not be able to fund. That will require borrowing. And in discussion today, there is one additional item, and it's difficult to get an estimate on because we don't know what will happen there at this point. But we do have a lift station that is basically at its capacity. If we put much more on it, it will have to be upgraded. Those are going, that'll probably be, I don't know, somewhere between the $100,000 to $200,000 range, giving you a wide window there. So that's something that has to be addressed, and how that would be upgraded, and whether any potential development would share in a portion of that, we can't answer right now. I don't know. And I emphasize that this is the ideal situation. Now, the public isn't aware yet because I just did it today with the situation that we had at our marina last week. And now we have a $40,000 expense that we did not anticipate. Of course, this throws our entire budget this year into a bit of chaos because we don't have any cash whatsoever to even fix the breaks that we've had. We had 2 water breaks on Bayfield Street already this year, and now we have a $40,000 main break, up to $40,000 at the marina. We don't have the cash within the utilities to pay for that. So the general fund will likely need to contribute some amount to that. So if we have these situations going into the future, this plan will obviously require adjustment. We only get $5,000 to $10,000 if we do a rate increase of 3 to 5%, depending if we go volume charge or fixed cost charge. I don't like doing rate increases because the higher our utility rates go, that makes us less favorable for development. So we've been trying to hold the line on that. We've been putting efforts into trying to reduce costs at the utilities. We have refinanced our debt. We have who I will call rock star staff at the utilities who have been doing a great job in trying, they're new, they're getting into this, they've been trying to address these issues. They have a long way to go to get financially solved. And so this is a concern. This plan is a good exercise to put together so that you know where we are at. You know that we are very tight. There is literally no cash in the utility fund. Is that accurate?
that's accurate.
Okay. So I want you to be aware of that. These are things that we have to do to make sure that the primary mission of our sewer utility is to make sure that the lake stays clean. That is our goal. And we're looking at what we can do to make that happen. With this report, we did have the energy audit that was done. And this energy audit suggests some improvements to help reduce our energy costs at the plant. This does tie into the next issue that we will be discussing with the solar project. However, I do believe, and we are getting the final costs, and we have the estimates here to, we're estimating that these the boiler and the blowers, which basically keep the aeration going at the plant. That could be up towards $40,000 of improvements at the plant, but we could probably get, at least on the blower portion, the electrical side of things, get a return on investment within about 2 years on that portion of the project. The boiler will take longer, probably 8 to 10 years. We don't have the money right now to do it, but because that is such an important potential upgrade that would reduce our costs and help us save money, I would find somewhere, somehow, by loaning from another fund to get that work done, because that is critical to the operation of the plant. Depending on what you decide on the next issue with the solar project, I have done one thing to potentially borrow that money if necessary. So those are my comments on the capital needs for our water and sewer utility. Just so that everyone is aware of that. I think it is good to have a plan, but remember, a plan is a plan. This is not something that is locked in stone. This is going to be subject to change, and available funding that we have. But we have it on paper. We can anticipate where our needs are going to be. Again, I prefer the Public Works and Utility staff to add any additional comments on this issue.
How would council like to proceed?
I have a question.
No, please.
On the year 2019, the items that are indicated in the plan that are sent in progress, that means that there is money budgeted for those activities. The truck, the demo of the wastewater plant, the replacing of pump 3, there's money budgeted for those.
Correct. To explain how that works, and the issue that we have. Separating the two utilities, we have water and we have sewer. They're separate businesses. Water, which is regulated by the PUC, is doing fine on its own. But our situation that we have is sewer is so far in the hole. Any additional money that water generates is being taken by sewer, because sewer is not financially solvent. So we did budget in this year to take care of some of these issues. The truck has been ordered. We ordered that truck because there basically is no floor left in that truck. Okay, they can see the road underneath them as they're driving down the street. We did take down the old treatment plant, one that was a building that was simply not needed, and if we proceed with the solar project, we needed to do that. And the replacement pump is in process. The other items are not in process at this time, and this is something that we're going to need to discuss, is whether we hold on these or we proceed and we have to stop other general fund items. That's something that the committee is going to need to debate and
But
discuss.
at this point, you're recommending that we consider an upgrade to the heating system for $20,000 and the aeration zones at $3,000 apiece for potential for the $12,000, correct?
And I did put, because we don't have exact figures on that yet, I just put a lump sum of 40,000 on that at this point.
For those two items.
Correct. Yes.
Could we hear some explanation for those that are not lucky enough to have gotten the prime tour of the wastewater treatment plant? It's very enlightening. I believe it or not, I would recommend.
I want to welcome anybody who wants to come down anytime. Just give me a heads up and I'll move from there. Come down and look at the treatment plant and go over things with you. It's quite interesting. People don't realize all the What basically what Scott's saying about we're looking at, we did an energy audit years back. Last January. I brought the guy in for his responsible water, free of charge. He comes in, he looks at all of our equipment. He says, okay, this is what you can do. You can take positive space placement blowers, which run 100% all the time. Maybe we can put them on variable frequency drive, which only allows so much power that we need. I've dealt with VFDs before. They're great. They save a lot of money. Everything's got, we're still working on costs to do this and implement all this. I've got Energetics, which is an integration company. I've got engineers on staff. They're giving me some estimates on those types of things. VFDs, maybe replacing one blower, getting a large blower on a VFD. Obviously, when you have a variable frequency drive, you have to heat off something, whether it's level or flow. In our case, it's oxygen level. So we don't have an oxygen sensor in that aeration basin, so I have to tie in an oxygen sensor, which would monitor oxygen and then ramp up or down speed as needed. By the way, the pump number 3, the influence pump, was just replaced last week, so that is fine. And there's other things too we got to look at. I tried to come up with this, 5-year capital improvement plan. Roofs on the buildings. I mean, that's something that we're not going to get payback on, but it has to be done. Just general maintenance on, fixing doors, things like that. That's in there. I'm trying to keep costs down, but yet there's things that you have to do. You can't have a leaky roof, especially in the electrical. Can't have. I'm trying to get variable frequency drives put in, get cost energy savings stuff. Get energy savings up, and hopefully we can, we'll see a quicker return on the investment.
And this ties into the next item about solar panels and but I like the idea of solar panels and saving energy, but you were explaining that, well, it's in here about how much money you save on energy. How much energy you save with the improvements, but the heater, I don't know about, and I'm thinking a lot of people wonder why $20,000 for. Why is that more important if it does take away from?
Correct. Right now, currently we have 2 large boilers in the plant that run that plant. Run the boilers, basically for heat. We're all put in back when the plant was built in 95, 96. They're about 80% efficient. Nowadays, you can basically put 2 or 3 of those small little boilers in on the wall. Very efficient. They're upwards of 90%. And they basically operate as on demand, kind of like a VFD. You only need a little bit of heat to bring up the temperature. If you need a lot of heat, you'll bring up the heat and the gas flow. So, I believe we did a comparison. I found out that Dave gave it for themselves in about 8 to 10 years. And these gas units, now we're talking gas, they're not. But they need to. They're easy. That's the one thing.
That was noted in the audit that you done.
Correct.
That's the HVAC.
Yep.
Okay, that's the same.
Council members, is there a motion to approve this plan? So move.
Second.
There any more questions or comments on this?
I would like to know, before we move forward, on how the budget is divided, why these purchases would affect the financial accounts. How are they connected? But I think it's going to be hard to understand.
If I can jump ahead
Go right ahead.
to that issue. If we're going to, in looking at the solar panel topic from a financial perspective, and I'll simply say that as far from a bid perspective, from a process perspective, I have no issues with the process that we used. I believe that the apparent low bidder is a reputable company and would be able to do the work that has been requested of them. It gets into the financial side of things. And I know Mr. Bailey made some comments. I respectfully disagree with those comments. If you look at the large spreadsheet that I had put out here, there are 2 pages, 4 pages. The first 2 relate to a 15-year borrowing at 4.5%. And this is basically using the state trust fund, because if we were going to a local bank, we could only borrow for 10 years maximum, which would require a balloon payment. And I've made every effort to rid the city of balloon payments and our debt service schedule, because they come back to haunt us all the time. So our last balloon payment is being paid off this year. In that line, you'll see if we did a 15-year borrowing, I highlighted the after-tax cash flow. Basically, that is showing the cash shortfall each year on what is projected from the energy savings versus the principal and interest of the loan that is proposed. And so you'll see it starts off over 5,000. We've got 2 years around 5,000, and a few years in the 4 years in the $4,000 range, 3 years in the $3,000 range, and so on and so forth, all the way out to 15 years. Then, once the loan is paid off, then you see what the actual savings of projected energy costs is to be. So those red columns, we need to come up with that as additional money within the utility budget. So you can add this expense onto our capital plan. Okay. I also did this spreadsheet under the 20-year borrowing. So if you're looking at that same line, you'll see that it is less. We have about 4 years in the $2,000 range, 3 years in the $1,000 to $2,000 range, and then it goes below $1,000 after year 8 until year 12. It should be a positive cash flow. So it's smaller under the 20 years, but I remind you just how sensitive our utility budgets are at this time. The sewer utility has over $4 million of debt in revenue bonds. It also owes the other funds, the general fund mostly, in water utility, over $600,000 already. I am not comfortable, and in my opinion, it is not fiscally responsible to add more debt on the sewer utility at this time when we are also talking about 5 years taking out a $5 million borrowing to do Bayfield Street. We are in debt up to our eyeballs. And I don't want to carry another 20-year loan. I know Mr. Bailey said that the contingency could be eliminated. In my professional opinion, that is a mistake. We never want to use our contingency funds. I've been doing this for 20 years. I don't claim to be an expert in much. But when it comes to project management, I have been doing projects for 20 years. I've done $130 million worth of projects in my career. I have never had a project not have a contingency fund, because if something goes wrong with this, you need to have the dollars to fix it or get it done. Because the project ends when the cash runs out. If we don't have a contingency fund, something happens that we did not anticipate, the project ends. There is no cash right now to finish it. There is no cash in the bank to do anything without borrowing. That is where we are at. And I realize that there is a desire to perhaps have solar energy. I know a lot of time and effort has been put into this proposal. I know that we have a grant to cover a portion of the cost, but I cannot recommend going forward with the solar project given our financial condition. And that's it. I mean, I respect Mr. Daly's opinion. I respect all the work that he has done on this. It has been very helpful on that. But from purely a fiscal standpoint, it is not the right time for us. I think we have to put our efforts towards other projects that can reduce our energy costs with a quicker rate of return. Does that answer your question?
What I also would like to know is, no, not right now.
Garrett. Brad, can I ask you, when you say quicker rate of return, with some of this, I mean, we are in debt, obviously. This does seem like going with solar will eventually start saving us from the situation we're in. But when you say, when we look at the heater, for instance, it's 11 years before we start, seeing that in a positive. What is different about those two items?
In my opinion, the blowers would pay for themselves, we project at this point, within 2 years, based on the best information we have. We do not have final dollars on that, but that is our best estimate at this point. As far as the heating system is concerned, that heating system is already over 20 years old.
Right.
Its life expectancy is not much longer. We're going to have to replace that sooner or later anyway.
I guess, since I'm still up here, I would just, I would basically agree with that. I am not an installer. I think it's a great thing. But after looking at the numbers and what we need to do down there, I mean, I'll be honest with you, we were given a very inefficient facility. Very inefficient. Well, let's try to make it more efficient and see where we're at 2 years, 5 years down the road. Maybe we can lower our kilowatt hours, get the, solar arrays down in size and see value. I spent 12 years at the Greater Baysville plant before I came here. I was there during construction. And basically, I'd like to say I raised it. That thing was built very efficient. And I always thought solar was a good option. And they are looking at it. About 11, 12 years ago, we looked at solar there, and it was so expensive at that time. But prices up. That's my take.
So just so I understand, jumping ahead to the solar numbers, just so at these different years for loans, basically, I'm kind of tearing on some of Austin's comments, $5,000 in year one, and then additional $5,000, those are basically what we're in the red by taking out that loan each year that we have to supplement, correct?
Correct. The project is based on the premise that the energy savings from the solar array will offset the vast majority of our debt.
And it kind of does. Your utility savings, that's your line, right? Your utility savings line is $10,000 in year one. Is that what I'm reading?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. So it's offsetting at 50%. Because then we owe $5,000.
Correct.
Okay.
So
But it just seems like a good return. When I think of it like investment and 50% savings, I feel like that, I'm I'm gonna just confess that I'm not like a huge banker or anything, but I mean, some numbers, I mean, to me, that is a good offset, right? Because we are getting savings from the solar.
You are getting savings. I wouldn't be as concerned if we had cash in the bank to apply to this project. If we didn't have to borrow for this project, it would be a different story. We wouldn't have any of the interest costs. That would make a world of difference.
Right.
Uh,
Our interest expenses are pretty high.
Correct. And so that's our issue, and that's going to be unique to us. If you went forward, I would have to come back at the next meeting and recommend probably a 3 to 5% rate increase on the sewer utility to get us back into the black on this.
You could do it.
That would cover this project. It's not necessarily going to cover, it's hard to say, because the more we increase utility rates, the more people conserve water. So it's a very difficult projection because we've done volume rate increases in the past, and basically they have not done anything. People will conserve more water. And then our rates look high, and then we have less people looking to move to Washburn, start businesses in Washburn. It's a catch-22.
Yeah, and I guess I'm trying not to be critical of like the proposed capital investments, but you know, when I'm looking over a couple of years to try to find 20 to 30,000, right? I mean, over the lifespan, I just know how things work. We shift, right? We shift budgets all the time. We have a 40,000, you know, I'm just seen it done. And so I'm looking at different things like install catwalk over aeration zone, $23,500. I'm saying you don't need a catwalk. I'm just like, these are the kind of things that I'm asking because, you know.
Come down and I'll show you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's needed. I mean, I guess my question is like, in terms of like long-term investment of solar and trying to find $5,000 each year, you know, it just, to me, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm just wondering, you know, is it like worth the value, right? And that's what I'm trying to dig in and find out. And I'm not like not trying to be rude to some of the different things that are set up here, but I mean, install catwalk over it. I mean, why do we need a catwalk? We don't have one, right? We need one. It's $20,000. And look at that. That's 4 years of paying for our solar. Those are the kind of things like, I mean, that's just the simplistic math. I know there's probably more that goes into this, but those are kind of my questions, I guess, from the solar perspective.
I'm looking at a negative cash flow for 15 years and then add in this list and you can pick and choose some of these things, maybe prioritize them. I'm sure they put some priority in them.
Yeah.
And then we're looking at the rest of the city budget for replacing Bayfield Street at $4.5 million. The world shined on us and we're going to have to pay $2 million. That's still a lot of money. And if we're cash-strapped now, how are we going to be paying for all of those things at the same time? We're going to have to pick and choose some things here. And certainly if Bayfield collapses, that's going to be a priority.
Great.
So I'm like Scott, I'm not opposed to solar. I'm just saying the timing right now and maybe the cash flow for the first 12 to 15 years puts us in a very tenuous position. And until we know more, I'm not sure that I'd be willing to agree to another loan at this point.
When the council said to move forward on this, I mean, we knew that there was going to be some investment in it. And I guess maybe some things have changed. I mean, I also think that in terms of, I know we have a short-term issue here, but I'm also trying to think of a long-term game, right? And so just trying to figure out to balance those things. I mean, because I don't think our opportunity will come up again, any short, any time in the near future to have this opportunity to go on these collective together with our partners. So I'm slightly concerned about that also.
I will remind the council that last year, 2 years ago, the council did invest $125,000 in the Excel Energy solar farm. And that's money that we took from various funds and donated on behalf of sewer, basically. And so each year we are, that has to be paid back, but eventually there will be a credit as well. So it is not as if we haven't tried to move in that direction, but we are at a point where we have to be very careful with what we pay for.
Aaron, did you want to say?
Well, I was just curious that when we look at this looks like okay, so we have one thing that we could do to start turning things around. It sounds like right now, revenue making, we don't have the money to, like, we're just going to cover costs. We're not actually trying to turn things around right now. We're just trying to stay above water. Is that, I mean, it's, again, simplistically, but is that what you're looking at? Or because this actually seems like this would be a plan to actually start turning the sewer situation around. I don't see the other plan as being that as much as just we're not in a position to start investing in that kind of plan. That's the argument we're making here.
We do not have the ability to invest without putting the entire financial picture of the city in jeopardy. I won't explain why. We have had to do numerous projects at the plant over the past several years. The latest one last year, thankfully, was 100% funded by a grant that Redfoot had obtained. And that would have, if we had to pay for that ourselves, that was an $800,000 project if we were on our own. The city invested in the plant 2014, 2015. That was about a $750,000 project. We had an old Army Corps grant that we had received before my time that we finally utilized. And the purpose of that was to make improvements to the plant to basically prevent those flooding and overflow issues. So in a lot of the recent rains, we have fared okay. We've come close sometimes, but we have fared okay in that. But the general fund had to put that money in. That has come at the expense of other things in the city, be it roads. We talked about the civic center tonight. Why doesn't the city have the civic center anymore? It's because we had to give it up because we cannot afford it. Last year, our property tax revenue grew by $713. That's the rate of growth in the city of Washburn. So how far are we going to go with $713 when I need about $20,000 to $30,000 a year just to maintain where we are at? And so this stuff adds up, and I have been complaining about this for 12 years. And I've had it, quite honestly. We have to be serious about this.
When we talked about the solar in the past, we knew there would be some borrowing. But nowhere in our discussions a year ago, and I mean nowhere, if you really put caps on, did we ever address the future of Bayfield Street. It never came into our conversation with funding and monies we would need to invest in Bayfield Street because we were at the mercy of the schedule of the DOT. Well, here we were tonight with a letter going out to the DOT saying we're ready, we'll be ready when you're ready. And we know this is, and it's been postponed so many times. But just, I would ask, what's the throw-out cost every time you respond to the busted pipes on Bayfield Street? I mean, the last one that came along, it messed with the integrity of the highway. So to go towards the solar, which even if you think $5,000 a year, that's $5,000 a year that I think can also be turned around to Bayfield Street, which we know at a minimum is somewhere between 4.5 and 5 million. And in 5 years from now, at the very outset or onset of that, could be even higher than that. We know it's not coming down. So I think now's the time that we have to think about the investment of Bayfield Street, which is good for everyone, residential, business, tourist, and put the solar on hold.
Oh,
I'm not against solar, but I can't see borrowing money when we have those upgrades. And who's to say that in 10 years, if this fixed panel is not obsolete, then we have to go again to get different solar panels. When they have a flower out now, which as of today is at least 30% more efficient at producing electricity than fixed panels.
We had some people request to open the floor to make comments. City Council would like to open the floor for those comments.
Yes,
Is there a motion to open the floor?
I make that motion.
For a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I think this gentleman here on the left was first. Please state your name and address, please. Speak loudly.
Felix Kalinowski, 311 Fifth Street, Boston. I just want to make a couple of comments to the council as I'm listening to this debate on solar energy. I've managed corporate facilities in the industrial sector for 40 years, and I've been looking at solar projects since the 70s, since they first started to come up. There's been numerous advancements in technology. That's going to continue to happen. And as time goes on, it's going to continue to happen even more rapidly than it's been happening in the past. And with energy just more expensive, you're going to see more and more of that occurring. So you need to be very cautious before you start dumping several $100,000 into a project. Projects in the South, Phoenix, California, Florida, tend to have a higher efficiency. Projects in the North Country here have a very low efficiency. Keep in mind, too, that when you install solar energy, you have to have backup energy as well, because you're not going to have sunlight all the time. So you really have two energy sources that you're creating here. You're creating the solar energy, plus you're managing and maintaining your conventional energy source. Let's see what else I got here. I guess that's probably about it. It's a big expenditure. And to be honest with you, I've yet to see one of these really pay off. I've been involved with these in all parts of the country. I've had 40 some odd facilities at one time that I've managed in all parts of the country. And again, in Phoenix works a lot better than we're going to work in Washington, Wisconsin. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill, you're next.
Hi. Solar in northern Wisconsin works just as well as in Phoenix. And the reason is because of dust in Phoenix and blocks of panels, and we have rain and snow and trees. There's been studies done that have proved that we have just as good solar energy production up north as we do south. Second of all, the spreadsheets that you've been looking at, we're very familiar with them. I've wrote them. Take the 15-year loan and get rid of it. It doesn't work. $5,000 negative cash flow, you don't need to do that. Borrow for 20 years. It goes down to $2,000 a year cash flow to begin with. But then you really can cut that in half if you don't spend the contingency money. And I'm not suggesting that you don't have it as a backup. You need the backup. But these type of projects are what I call boilerplate projects. The contractor will come in there, they've done it a million times. Very, very likely there's not going to be an overrun or anything is going to happen. And therefore, you can have a line of credit for that contingency money, but if you don't spend it, you don't spend it. You don't need it. This project is, to fund the solar is borrowing $130,000, $137,000, the exact number. But the project is a little over $200,000. You got a $79,000 grant. The borrowing for this project is $130,000. It is cash flow neutral in 5 years, not 15, if you use the numbers that I just used, and it will make you money in the long run. $113,000 for year 25.
Just for clarification, you're saying that if we don't use the contingency fund or don't need that, you will believe it will cash flow in about 5 years. That's correct? That's the mission of what you
Yes.
said. That's correct. Just want to be clear. Scott, do you want to respond to that?
I will take Mr. Bailey at his math. So basically, if I remember correctly, I had put a $20,000 or $21,000 contingency on there. So how that would work is if we don't spend the contingency, we're fortunate not to do that, we would use that to pay down the loan or to deal with that. But that's assuming that we don't have to.
Please come forward. Floor is still open. Please state your name.
I'm Deborah Barnhart of 1003 Grandview, and I don't have anything to say to the finances of going ahead with the solar project as a solar project. I actually support all alternative energy, but I'm a property taxpayer here, and I've talked to a lot of fellow citizens in the short period of time that I've lived here, which is now almost 3 years, and you're on the verge of a property tax revolt. And I've also done a lot of research on how property taxes work in the state of Wisconsin. It is very different from Minnesota, where I previously lived. First of all, it's a nightmare. I really respect that you guys do this because the state of Minnesota, the state of Wisconsin Constitution says your property taxes cannot be different for a commercial institution or for a high-value home. It has to be the same. You have very little flexibility. You can't. Cities aren't allowed to have a sales tax, only the county. Yeah, because I don't come here to complain to you without knowing some facts, so I'm trying to educate myself. But I grew up in the Hayward area. One thing I learned as a young person in Wisconsin, there's not a lot of money here. People are poor. Let's not dance around that. I've been amassing figures on this. Our median household income in Ashland and Washburn. Washburn's slightly better. Ashland is about 2/3 of the state median income. Washburn's a little better. Our property taxes are very high because our state has made decisions that cities will be far more reliant on property tax funding than anywhere else in the nation. So where cities pay 60 or 50% for keeping a city running here, it's only 25 or 20% in other parts of the country. So, and I was in software for many years, and I had project managers, and Scott would probably laugh, and maybe some of you will too. We had a saying, and when you're doing a budget for a project, take your best estimate now, double the cost and double the money, because they always go off the track. And you will destroy the project if you don't think that way. And I saw projects die. I saw projects terminated after a lot of money was spent. They were thrown in a trash can. So I'm very aware of what Scott is talking about. And I guess I'm just saying, you know, I really respect the fact that you all have very difficult decisions to make, but I'm trying to bring the perspective of the ordinary taxpayer to you, which is we understand that you are set with a very constrained set of circumstances in terms of funding the city. I don't think that's great. I wish our state government would change some things, but I also know it's not going to. And I think we can all pretty much guess that it's going to stay the same way for quite a while, because some massive changes would have to take place in state government for them to say, ooh, let's change the state constitution. So that means that we, the taxpayers, are really looking to you to figure out how to handle the money in the most efficient way possible, because we're very concerned. It's getting to be a really substantial drain on my income annually, and it goes up every year, which is not a lot of fun. And just as you say, you're worried about increasing the sewer and water rates because it decreases the interest in parties having a business or home here. Well, we as homeowners start to worry that when the taxes get too high, the property taxes get too high, people will be less interested in our properties. Then all of a sudden, the value starts going down because they expect you to help compensate them for that huge property tax bill they're going to have to pay. Then you have to raise the taxes, and I don't think those kinds of downward spirals go anywhere to it. So that's my 2 cents worth as hopefully slightly better than normal informed taxpayer. And whatever you decide, please keep that in mind from the people who are paying the bills. Thank you.
Thank you for that education. Anyone else like to comment? Floor is still open. Okay, the motion to close the floor. Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, back to our discussion. Aaron.
I think these are excellent points. I do worry about property tax, utility costs, things like that. I do see this, as far as what I can tell, this is our one, this is a plan at least to start lowering those eventually. I know it's out in the future for some, and we might have some short-term pain in that. But if we continue without this plan, I see like what we're going through continuing. Unless there's some other, am I missing another piece of that, Scott, where you see other plans coming in that actually start to help us turn this around?
What plan are you talking about?
The solar plan,
The solar
like
plan.
eventually, we're starting to see hopefully some utility savings, hopefully then that will affect our utility costs. That's not hoping that either, but I don't see how, if we don't start investing in things that actually start changing the cost of our utilities, what is our other plan other than just going forward, as we are? I'm happy to, it's not that I'm just trying to decide it.
Can I just respond to the question? So for several years, discussed the financial status of the utilities, and it has come down to several things. One, we are doing the best we can to keep our operating costs in check. Over 50% of the water and sewer utility budgets goes to principal interest payments. So it's a very small portion, but our staff, I believe, is doing the best job that they can. It does require the investment of some equipment and so forth in order to do in-house testing and so forth. But those are returns on investment. But in the broad scheme of things, it's smaller savings. We have done all of the refinancing that we can. That's another area that we looked at. It comes down to, besides, finding things like this, like energy savings, it comes down to adding utility customers and water users. We could use a big water user in town right now. We could use more customers, and that goes into the whole development of the city issue. There's no one project or no one development that is going to solve our problem. But combined, all these steps that we've been taking certainly help. We had done, dusted off, it's still on the website, I believe. We did a report back in 2011. What would it be if we had added other residents within the city to the system? Very controversial topic. That wouldn't have solved our problem, but it would have reduced our problem in half back at the time that report was written. So it comes down to cost savings, our debt, adding customers.
Aaron, I'd just like to point out, just to respond to you in a neutral way.
Sure.
It's not as if we're doing nothing to address the efficiency. You see that list that they
Oh,
presented.
absolutely. I don't mean at all to be critical of that. It's just, this seems to be a large, shift and, shift in the positive direction. And just looking at what are some other options that we have or that we can foresee that can have that similar impact as the solar would over time. And yeah, so it's not, I know everyone's working super hard at keeping this cost as low as we possibly can. And again, it's more for just, the general discussion. When we have, I mean, we've seen it. I mean, Scott, you're saying, well, the other way that we can shift our utility costs is by getting people come here and do construction, utilities. And we just had a discussion about that. It failed too fast. And that's not to just say like, okay, hindsight, but I mean, that's truly what we're up against. If it's that hard to get people to develop in this city, I don't see a large shift like this other than this project. And maybe that's just something I'd like, we either need to address in some ways. Otherwise, we're going to be dealing with these kind of nickel and diming increase as we move forward, I assume, if we don't have some large shift that can be positive.
Then she was also on the agenda too. I guess I look at what's the length of return on investment, and you look at the DOT drive, it's 3 to 5 years, 3 to 4 years, even less than that. So we need to pick and choose. We don't have the money for that right now, but we get the return on investment is much quicker. And so again, you get down to prioritizing off of this list, and get into it. I didn't realize the boilers were that old. I had to replace the boiler. The boiler in my house was about the same one that we got in that building there. I had to replace that already. They don't last forever. So when you start to prioritize the list and look at what needs to be done, and I'll get back to the bottom line on the second page, it'll blow you away. I just don't know that I want to finance something out of the 20 years when you get that return.
Yes, ma'am.
Solar is just, honestly, in my opinion right now, the tiniest thing to talk about, power. Because the sewer treatment plant is a living being. And as you see the things that we're going to need as the time progresses, as Scott's pointed out, 750,000 already. I mean, we could get to the bottom of this list and we're starting all over again. So it's a constant, and we've been in debt for as long as I've been on council, which some don't think it's been too long, but I bring to the point too, I hope you never face the panic we did a number of years ago when the state said they were going to drop the allowable phosphorus in the water. And we had not a bloody dime. We had no capability of borrowing. We knew we didn't even know where we were going to go with it. And by the grace of whatever, it kept getting, pushed back and pushed back at the state level. But we would have been, it would have been catastrophic. Because not only our inability to make the adjustments, and think of this too, that wasn't just then. These adjustments will continue to happen as we're going to have to make modern updates to our treatment plan. And somehow, some way, I do believe some of these figures are going to change for us, and we're going to have to fine tune even more for the environment. And like I said, the last time, if we knew we couldn't borrow, we had no borrowing capabilities. We didn't know where the money was coming from. We were in the hole even deeper than we are now. And by not making those compliances, the DNR would continue to fine you on a daily basis. So we were drowning. So to just talk about power with solar, sewer treatment plant is big. It's a big topic with so many facets that again, being here as long and having these conversations, some of you haven't even learned those things yet. And I don't mean that to be insulting, I truly don't. Every time you turn around, I'm learning something new about that place. Like, if power is just the one thing we're talking about tonight, I need you to know there's so many other things that treatment plant has coming for us down the pipe.
I could just add, I haven't been on council quite as long as Mary, but I remember those days. What she didn't add is that we were getting messages from the DNR when we were having problems a number of years ago, that they were threatening to pull our license and our ability, which essentially means you can't flush your toilets and turn on your taps. That's how they get you to comply. And so that's why we started spending a lot of money over the years upgrading. And the results are, in these last years of storms, we were not overflowing. We did not have that problem. Now, not to say it couldn't happen in the future, but that's when you invest in your plant. Those are the results. You have better outcomes than other cities and other places have. So I remember when we were getting those notices from the state, if you don't do this, you will not be able to operate a plant. That means, how are you going to survive as a city? Now, whether they'd actually do it, I doubt it, but still, you have to comply. Just thought I'd throw that back. Yes, Karen.
Scott talked about our current staff at the water and treatment plant as our rock stars. And both staff have been on board for, less than 2 years or less than 3 years?
One is 3 years, and we've been here, Joel, almost 2.
Okay. And in that period of time, at least the time I've been on the council, I think they continue to come to us with, ideas and plans to make the project or the operation more efficient. I mean, I think that doing the energy audit revealed a lot of good information in terms of what really needs to be done, what things are being done really well, and I think that was evident in the energy audit. And while investing in solar is just what it is, a good investment. I guess my position is that I trust the staff and to continue to work on having the most efficient operation we can with some upgrades in equipment and looking at the big picture in terms of 2024 of the needing to have considerable resources for Bayfield Street and other things within the operation of our city that we're concerned about. We're concerned about fixing potholes. We're concerned about enhancements of our parks. We're concerned about the windows in the city hall. I mean, those are some real life, everyday kinds of things that also need to be considered. I think that we need to consider the totality. This is important. Energy is utilization at the water treatment plant is certainly a critical issue. And solar is an investment, but I think at this point in time, it is an investment that, in my opinion, is not one that we can consider.
No, so far, our discussion has sort of been tying these two things together. They're two separate issues. Scott, as I understand your comments, it's sort of like if we approve one, we're not sure we can do both at the same time. Is that correct?
Well, if I may, we tied them together because there was a concern of how the solar may impact our list. You can go back to the list and decide whether or not you want to approve that or review that further, or know that the energy audit recommended upgrades of the blowers and the boiler. Right now, we don't have a mechanism technically to fund that. We have to go because of our immediate today issue with our unanticipated $40,000 water break at the marina. We have to have the finance committee go back and relook at this year's budget and make recommendations. Something has to be cut. Okay? We got to cut $40,000 out of our budget. At the same time, the committee is going to have to take a look at how are we going to potentially pay for these additional upgrades if that is in fact a priority of the city. So you can, I think you should have enough information to decide, you know, this is your plan. Keep in mind, this is subject to change. Things are going to change, things will break. We'll have to, a plan is a plan. It is not written in stone. We'll have to revise it every year. Then I think we can address solar. Solar I have laid out in, again, I have no issue with the concept of solar. I don't have an issue with the vendor. It is simply an issue that we are taking on more than we can chew. And we are increasing our risk of having additional issues when something goes wrong, because we know what's going to be coming from the fire department, from the ambulance service. We have a lot of things in public works. We talk about parks. We have a lot of, and right now the general fund is carrying the capital projects for the most part for the utilities. Water is putting in what it can, but eventually the state's going to say, no, you know, water's got to pay for water's problems, and sewer has nothing. Each year we fail the financial report for the sewer. We submit that to the state, and we have to say, why are you failing?
So for those who don't know, we have to fill out all these forms for the state, for the state of our utilities, if I can be so simple.
We'll do it next month.
And we always fail in the financial sector because we're, as we discussed, our sewer does not cash flow by any close means. But so we can look at this plan by the treatment plant and public works for those projects, and theoretically pass that plan and pick at that, and then look at the solar project and decide. Because by approving the plan doesn't mean we're going to actually spend money on each thing. If you, though, improve the contract, then it means we will be paying for the solar project. So they're not necessarily exclusive. Yes.
The plan as presented is a 5-year capital improvement plan. We certainly could approve 2019 without approving the other 4 years. Could we not?
From my perspective, the purpose of the document is to inform you of issues and requests that are coming.
Mm-hmm.
That is all the document is.
Okay.
We already have a budget. We've already approved 2019 in the budget, except now we have a problem. And the point of it today is, even our budgets, a budget is simply a plan, and sometimes it doesn't go according to plan. We've got to go back and amend our budget. So I don't have, you can approve this list or just accept this list at this time with the understanding that it is going to change. And you have control during the budget process to decide what is going to be funded and what is not. By approving this list, you are not saying that you are funding all of these items in the future.
That's what I want.
Because the heating system wasn't in the budget. $20,000 for the heating system
Right.
wasn't in the budget. And we knew at that time, I mean, this audit was completed in January. So
We approved the budget last fall.
that's why it wasn't in our budget. That's why you want to add it.
2020, if you want. Well, I would
Well, I
encourage you
move,
to approve.
I move that we accept the 5-year capital improvement plan.
We've already,
Already moved.
we've already
Okay,
had a
Second.
motion by McGrath and
Okay, we're
second by
still
Austin.
voting on that, okay.
Any other questions or comments on the plan? Plan first. Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, thank you. We have discussion and action on solar voltaic system design and installation project at the wastewater treatment plant. There's several items, acceptance of bids, designation of responsible representative, and resolution 19.004 authorizing the borrowing for that project. How would you like to proceed? Mary?
I would like to make a motion that at this time we put the solar photo PV system on hold.
Second by Paul.
1 second, we're just getting some legal opinion here. Right. So,
Oh, I see.
what was the motion again?
The motion was to put the solar system on hold.
I'm just trying to get the correct wording for
Yeah.
a motion. I didn't want to make it a secret, I just wanted to get our legal advice as to what properly should be done. So Max, do you want to comment?
If you.
No action?
You can move to table this matter, and then the same bid comes back next meeting,
No,
or
I
you
don't.
can move to reject this bid, and then it's rejected.
That's rejecting a bid, if that is your intention,
Yes.
if we stop it. So your motion, so the motion is to reject.
And I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Knight. Any questions or comments on that?
I would like to hear from Mr. Bailey again, or anyone in the audience, about some details, and I don't want to create a lengthy debate anymore, but there are numbers that don't make sense in how they balance out. I totally agree that it is not wise to spend money we don't have, but it's already happening. We've got this $4 million that we need to spend on the road. How is that affecting a $200,000 project? I mean, innocent things, or I do think that we should just assume things are going to break that we didn't expect. And I'm inclined to reject the solar panels as well because of the pattern of water line issues and the breakages. It's becoming more common, and we still have years before we can replace it. How much does it cost? Is it going to cost to fix the one by Marina? What was that number?
40,000.
40,000.
That's not even a firm number, I don't think. That's what else they find, isn't that true?
I would certainly hope that it would be within 40.
I don't know.
I believe it's 35,700
That's something
without replacing the asphalt and the concrete that they're going to have to tear up.
So I think Scott may be able to address your question.
Okay.
Just the tie-in between the two again, Scott.
Not only that, I guess I'm wondering, this reason I mentioned asking someone to speak is because there is this grant, and you've been over that with the TIF grant, you've been over that with other things that would have helped turn things around. If there's potential to have some income potential, how much money would we be spending more by waiting another 5 years, 10 years? I think that it's very likely if the systems improve, costs will go down, and it's worth waiting for. But I would like to hear what the financial loss will be if it's something everybody wanted to do right now. What are we missing out on? Does that make sense?
Answer your question here as best I can. It is true that the city did receive a grant, thanks to the efforts of Mr. Dean and the company. I'm just looking, oh, here it is, for $79,119. This grant would have to be, the project would have to be completed by December 1st of this year. Otherwise, we lose 25% of that. That is I don't know if they would let us carry that even further than that. That would have to be a question. I have to go back to my inclination would be doubtful. If we don't have intentions of moving forward with the project, they would most likely say no. Do we have the ability to reapply for that grant? I can't answer that. Perhaps Mr. Bailey can shed some light on that. This comes down to the issue of comparing potatoes. In the broad scheme of things, $200,000 is a small potato compared to a $5 million project, which is a large. But I'm looking at the overall picture, and I'm looking at what is the mission of the city. We have an obligation to provide water and sewer service to our residents and customers. We know that we have faults in our system. A couple people had severe damage to their homes this year because of our failing system. We've had 6 breaks in the past 3 years that were significant. The last break almost drained our entire water supply. We have an obligation, I believe, to maintain a good, reliable, quality system for our customers. That should be the priority, in my opinion. We've gone over some of the history tonight of the financial situation of the utilities. The general fund has been carrying it. This loan, if we take it, would actually be a general obligation loan because sewer is so far in the hole, no one would ever loan money to sewer. This legitimately should be a sewer expense, but no bank will loan money to sewer. It must be a general obligation debt at this point, simply because it is in the hole. When we have obligations that we must meet, I will take those over those that we don't necessarily have to do. I don't believe that anything over 10 years as far as a return on investment is necessarily the best investment of our dollars. We have other items that can reduce our energy costs. And I think that is where we should focus. I want to try to minimize how far we extend the city. There is a limit as to how much general obligation debt the city can take out. We'll likely be pushing that limit with the Bayfield Street project as well. So that is my argument. Mr. Bailey or anyone else wants to comment on the other side?
Mr. Bailey would like to speak. Is there a motion open on the floor?
I make open floor. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Please.
I think one of your questions was what are we missing if we didn't go forward with the project?
I think
One of
we're
them
away
is
10 years.
the opportunity now. One is the grant, $79,000. You got a recent grant at the highest rate with the state law. They base it on the kilowatt hour production, and you got a 50% recent grant. All the recent grants, in fact, all the ones in the community were either 35 to 40 cents. So if you reapply, yes. Will they give it to you? I don't know. But more than likely, they will not give you as much as that's the trend. Second, you're missing an opportunity because this was a Group 5 project. This involved 4 different site owners. And we had a contractor come in and did the project at what we call utility scale. The prices were $1.75 a watt. In 2013, they were $4 a watt. We're paying 39 cents on the dollar right now because we got a contractor to come in. If you go it alone down the road, a year, 5 years down the road, if you can get this project like this put together and you get a bunch of people together, maybe you can repeat it. But if you just did your own 100 kW, you're not going to get $1.75 a watt unless things drastically change down the road. So what I'm saying is if you have the grant, you have an opportunity because you bought. And so the prices are good. You're right, this is an investment. It's different than the Bayfield Street. Yes, we need to maintain Bayfield Street, but that's a totally different package. This is an investment that will pay you money down the road. And the numbers, once again, this is a 5-year turnaround. This is not a 10 or 15-year turnaround. You break even, in other words, after 5 years if you don't use that contingency money. And the project, the bid was for $230,000, I think it was $234,000, minus the $79,000 grant. So you're really only needing to borrow $130-something thousand. I keep hearing this $200,000 number. That includes $21,000 of contingency money, and it also includes $40,000 worth of the improvements that you need to do too. And they'll pay for itself too. But the solar part of it is $130-something thousand.
So this 159,000 is with all the extras.
The 159 is with the $21,000 contingency included in it.
Scott's recommending that we do it, to add another 40,000.
But the numbers that Scott is referring to does not include the extra $40,000 for the solar cost. That would be additional borrowing.
If I can clarify. The additional $40,000 for the other potential energy savings improvements are not included in this spreadsheet. However, I included them in the borrowing resolution. So just to be clear on that. So the solar project is not factoring in the repayment for those other things. It is simply the money for the project plus the contingency of what is in these spreadsheets.
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Peter. Let's say in 10 years, it's way solar is changing down. Those panels are obsolete. And the city has to buy again. Do they not?
The panels in the last 50 years have improved efficiency about 3 or 4%. So the thing that they're going to be obsolete in 10 years is probably not going to happen. Where the efficiencies have changed is in the inverters. The inverters is like a computer, and like computers, they've changed drastically over the years. They get a lot smarter. But the actual taking a photon, a light, and converting it into electricity has not changed much in the last 50 years.
But my question is this. Okay, they have movable panels now. Plus they have a cloud, which has a sensor that gets the optimum light to produce the most electricity. You can't do that with fixed panels.
These are fixed panels.
Right, you cannot do that with fixed panels. But that is not. That's what I'm saying. I know as of right now today, the power is at least 30% more efficient.
All right, you know, they're not utility scalers. They're very expensive, what you're talking about.
I know they are.
This is a production type project, a utility scale project. They're off-the-shelf modules.
Right, I understand that. My cousin was an engineer for 3M and he built it off in the 70s. He put solar on his house.
Very expensive.
Yes, it was. And he had battery backup. He charged battery bank in his home. I know that because we'll be online when there's no fun. But what I'm saying is that with the movable panels, they collect more light than fixed.
So this project would be fixed.
Right, which is not as efficient as a movable.
Right.
And even though you're right, the fixed ones, you just put more panels up and you get the same amount of benefit. Because they come down in price from them.
I would be curious if there are ideas by anyone on council, out there anywhere, for where else this money could come from. If this is something that could be
Outside investors.
Outside investors, shares, the public, fundraising like the library.
You could, Eagle Point Solar, your contractor, and I'll just throw this out here, and Max, you might listen to this too. Eagle Point Solar has an investor group, and they bring outside investing into the project. 2 years ago, when we first started all this, we were talking about outside investors and no money up front by the city and all that kind of stuff. The problem is, right now, there's some utilities in Milwaukee that are not allowing interconnection because of the use of outside investors in the Wisconsin utility laws in 1912, which is the current utility laws. We decided, as a consultant, that we shouldn't even go there because of the legal ramifications. However, nobody's really approached Xcel Energy to see if it's up to the utility. We did go to Baker Electric, and Baker Electric, for example, has no problem with using outside investors. If they went to Xcel Energy, and if they had a problem with it, fine. If they don't have a problem with it, fine. But that is, to answer your question, that is a potential source of money. But whether it's worth the legal paperwork, this is a really small loan, $139,000. I mean, if you were borrowing $1 million, the outside investors would probably be much more likely to lend you money. It's too small of a project, probably. But it's possible. You could ask Eagle Point Solar if they would be interested.
It comes down to numbers, and I'm hearing 5-year investment, I'm hearing 10-year investment, it's once again, it's.
You're allowed to.
Yeah, it's, like I said,
the finance it better than Scott.
and I have a very hard time going against the city district. I just, the only thing I can say is that I really like the long-term investment potential. When you look at, like I stated earlier, utility savings of $10,000 across the board, up to $15,000. I think eventually it's our long-term term. It turns us in that direction. Mm-hmm. And I know that there's other things that have return on investment. That's like a one-time shot, also. But this is like I think it's a little bit of a turning point for us. And the numbers that I see of us being in the hole, I feel like I've seen us shift things around. Maybe that shifting of things around isn't as flexible as we once have been, because I've seen us being able to cover these kind of numbers before. And the fact that we're getting to the point where we can, where we're dissolving some of our other loans that we had out there, and so that but now with the Bayfield Street, I understand that that's going to be where we're going to be putting our borrowing. So I get the picture. I don't know. It's unfortunate, I guess, because I also feel like when we're talking about $130,000, I feel like, I don't want to say that's small potatoes.
But compared to $4 million.
Compared to 4, I feel like it's something that we typically would be able to do. I guess that's what I'm saying. So I'm a bit surprised. So that's all. But that's what it is. I see the numbers and
Well, and Scott indicated that our property taxes grew by $715 in a year. And we know that other costs go up every year. So that's why it's probably not a surprise that we are in such a bind financially. Because we're just not getting more tax money.
Understood, but that's also been going on you look at the Simon Washburn, it hasn't moved in the 20 years that I've been here. So, to say
and then costs will continue to go up.
I understood, but this is the first time that I've seen like 130, perhaps we're at the climax. I don't know, but I'm just saying
And to that, the cost continue to go up. This actually turns it around. That's like, I know it's kind of small in a sense, but it's also like, if we just keep taking debt and debt and debt, and then there's no way of actually, we're just paying it. We just continue to pay it. This turns into a positive. When you look at the red numbers are hard to look at. I totally get that, but eventually they turn black. And I don't know what else we have coming up here that has that same thing. And again, this is maybe a small project, but at the same time, like, we need more of this, where we actually start turning it around rather than just, well, we just have to deal with these little costs that come. You know, and I shouldn't say little costs, I'm saying, you know, 'cause I know there's huge projects coming too, but in just this one little window, there's actually a turnaround. And I think that's what we need to start looking for, if possible. Now, given the numbers, it sounds like that's impossible. I don't know the numbers as well as you guys. You say we really can't afford this. I don't know, you know, if there's much discussion, but man, it is really unfortunate that, you know, we have an opportunity to actually start turning things around, even in small instances of energy of the plant. That's what we need to keep looking for, you know?
Move to close the floor.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Scott, you want to comment?
It's a difficult thing because it is where do we draw that line in the sand, and I understand that. If you went forward with this project, we would do the best that we can. These are projections, but for 12 years, I have emphasized caution. For 12 years, I have asked for the community and the council to come up with ways to save money. For 12 years, I have asked for council to consider developments within the city. And I don't know when those things will really start happening.
Mary?
I'd like to call the vote, please.
Well, we do that by if anyone's had questions, or if the council has more comments you'd like to make. This is the time. This is an important issue. I think we need to clear, everyone have their say. But I appreciate that. It's going to be a long meeting. But this is really a topic that needs to be discussed. But if no council member has anything else.
My only comment is, Scott, I think I've been hearing you, but to me, this is like, I guess, from a caution standpoint, this is something that is black and white that's eventually going to get us there, right? I mean, so it's unfortunate that this is the one we're doing it on. You see what I'm saying? Like, I get, like, I'm not going to bring up other things that we've purchased downtown, different things that we've done, but I'm just saying, like, this one, like, it turns us around where it is, you know, so I get the cautionary standpoint, I get that. And that maybe it's going to be tough to get there. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen. I guess for me, I just feel like it's unfortunate that it's on this particular piece because this is pretty black and white that in long term is going to make us reverse where we're actually going to be in the black and actually be saving money. Right?
On one aspect of it, the power.
Yeah.
We don't know what we don't know. That's the thing.
I agree.
And historically, we get hit with, I mean, 120,000 of borrowing is just 3 more breaks. And we've got 5 years before Bayfield Street gets done. And we have a utility that has to pay that repair.
No, I truly, I'm not against solar, but I cannot see borrowing the money right now. We'll put solar down there. The problems we have with the water mains and the fact that we need to grow the city. We just can't keep spending money and not grow the city.
Yes, Laura.
Is there a deadline? If this did not pass, we reject this bid, can it be taken up by a private group or party to raise money to take this? I mean, is it specifically just for this? Or could it be applied to somewhere else in Washburn or done there?
With donations or some fundraising.
Yes, because that amount is something that is feasible. If people care about it enough, you know.
I'm on Jeffrey type. Is there any construction?
You'd have to approve the contract fairly soon, and you wouldn't want to approve the contract without some funding mechanism for that contract. And so if you're relying on some sort of fundraising efforts.
No, not exactly. I'm wondering if there's a way to, we all agree that if there was potential for money, I mean, how long do we have to, we're committing to the money in short order?
If you approve the contract, then you need to pay for that
Okay.
contract.
So
So if theoretically
how do we
you
not-
could table it to the next meeting if you had 30 days to come roughly to come up with some other idea.
No, what I'm looking to avoid is coming back next month and having higher taxes, because the point made about taxes and utilities. It is a problem. It prevents us from considering additions. It's a big factor for everybody. But I do feel like covering that cost, could that go to referendum or some other way to, in the money have to increase or?
I'm not sure why, well, the referendum idea, we could go to referendum to raise our taxes, certainly. But that's a process we couldn't do immediately.
I'm just trying to think this through. If there were options to either raise your taxes or raise your water bill or donate so much money, I mean.
Well, if you raise your taxes or you raise your water bills, it means the people who live here are paying one way or the other.
Right. But,
I don't have a good solution. I wish I could.
And, well, Scott, didn't you say that if there isn't, what did you say about the end of the year, 25% it was reduced? Is that regarding this?
If the project is not complete by December 1st, we lose 25, of this year, we lose 25% of that.
So we have 6.
It has to be completed this construction season.
And in your opinion, the only way to pay for something like this would be a sewer utility increase or not? Borrowing from some other fund. I mean, that's what I have right now, so, I mean.
If the council wants to go back and reprioritize its already meager capital budget, in my opinion, then we have to go back and do that already because we've had events this year that we can't pay for. Correct. That is within the council's right to do so. I'm not recommending that. I cannot sacrifice the operations of the city.
That's it. That's my question. That's my last question.
And you know in the future, there will be requests for large items such as the fire department may want a new fire truck for various reasons, and usually have a good reason. EMTs may want a new ambulance for really good reason. Those are very expensive items we're looking at also. Just saying, look at the big picture.
Oh, I was on personal finance.
I'm just saying
I know the
for-
capital investment project, you know how much I love putting that and stuff on top of the roads. Cut that. All right, I'm done. That's it. I got it. I'm ready.
Any other comments here? Aaron?
Yeah. Would you envision this lowering our utility costs, helping us lower our utility costs eventually, given the savings, projected savings?
Lowering the costs, no. At some point, 20 years from now, would sewer actually be in a position to begin repaying what it owes the other funds? Because of this, yes. In 20 years, we'll also have retired a lot of those large bonds for the construction of the treatment plant and all the pipes in the ground. That will make the most significant difference. But who knows what projects we will have at that time as well.
How would the council like to proceed? Any other comments, or are we ready to vote on this? And it's not an easy vote, I understand. No other comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Let's have a roll call vote.
And
Roll call.
can you have the motion? Okay. So the motion is, hold on. Our motion is to reject the bid. It was made by Mary and seconded by Minus.
So that's the motion to reject the bid.
So,
Roll call.
Austin,
Yes.
That means you want to reject the bid.
Right.
Goldberg,
Yes.
Laura, no. No check?
Yes.
McGrath,
Yes.
Mazias,
No.
Minus?
Yes.
And the results?
5 yes.
We rejected the bid. Therefore, the rest of the items are not necessary. Okay, let's move on to the next. Discussion and action on placement of dog park in lot 19 Woodland Drive property. And this is brought forward by the Parks Committee, and the Parks Committee representative Ken Mazias. We please discuss this.
Hello. So, we talked about this quite a bit in our committee, and unfortunately, I feel like the folks up at where the location is have not been contacted, and they had not been to one of our meetings. So they've been recently contacting me and some other folks, and at this time, I'm recommending that we just push this back to the Parks Committee. I think that's more conducive to conversation. And I'm not sure if we'll end up recommending this site again to the council, but I just feel like at this time, I would prefer for that conversation to be done in that committee and go to the site, the adjacent homeowners up there, so we all understand the different places that we've looked and the pros and cons of the different locations, just so that we don't have it. A dog park is supposed to be a fun, positive thing, and I don't want it to get into a kind of a discussion here. I'd rather have that discussion outside this environment. So my recommendation is that we push this back to the Parks and Rec Committee this time.
Moving, make a motion.
Yeah, make that motion.
Second by Laura. Any questions or comments on that?
I have one comment, was during public comment, question was raised as to whether this was legal to have a park there. The park is a permitted use in any zoning district in the city, so it would be.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
The only question I have about this dog park is who's gonna clean up the mess? City or the dog owners? Because if it's a dog owner, I can tell you right now, I'm watching what, by my house, watching that neighborhood, there's about 6 people that carry back. Otherwise, the dogs are going back in the yards, all the street.
Well, that's to be decided later. That's down the line, so let's just refer to that.
That'll be part of the whole proposal that we
And
brought
so
back.
I would encourage you, Tom, to go to the next Parks Committee when
Yeah.
this is on the agenda and express that comment and let them discuss that and work out that issue. So, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Thank you. Back to the Parks Committee. Next is discussion action on painting the fish sculpture at the West End Park as a rainbow trout. Amy Strock, petitioner, and I don't think she is here tonight. So we see the request to sort of make it a rainbow trout. Is there a motion
And I
to?
make a motion to approve.
Okay,
Second that motion.
any discussion, any comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The next is discussion action on request to expand RV camping at Thompson's West End Park. Mr. Councilmember Linus brought that forward. So Scott, do you have any comments you want to make on that?
So, to try to summarize this simply, Mr. Nymus has requested that we consider expansion of camping at West End Park. I understand the purpose of the request, and the idea behind it is it being a potential revenue generator for the city. As we discussed, revenue is an important consideration. However, the park plan that the council had adopted doesn't have the areas desired for RV parking. And so there's a couple of different ways we go about this. I always said a plan is a plan, and plans can be adjusted. If that is a desire of the council that can do so, it could refer this issue back to the park committee for further consideration. I do believe that if there is a desire to have more RV parking, we have to look at some more up-to-date and, in my opinion, more accurate numbers. What is in the what was in the plan, I think it needs to be looked at a little more carefully. I'll see that.
I would recommend that this be referred to the park committee, which is why we sort of established park committee to deal with policy issues like this. That's my recommendation, because that's the proper place for them to get those details and then get it back to council. And it's up to the council to decide if they'd like to do.
So I would, you're making, were you making a motion?
I can't make motion.
No,
I can only make suggestions.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any other questions, comments on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And next, we have discussion and action on planning process for Omaha Street property available for development. We have a memo from our city administrator, and the administration would like to know how would you like to proceed and go forward. And this is sort of open-ended idea. He does not make a recommendation. We just want to know what process you'd like to use to get to where we hope to get to. Scott, do you want to make any other comments?
I will make a few other comments.
Okay.
You can look at this simply as that parcel, in my opinion, and just, or that block, if you will, and focus on that. Inside. The other thing that is weighing on me is I know that our comprehensive plan is 12 years old and is technically out of date. At some point, when we apply for grants and other things, someone's going to say, this is out of date, you should really update it. As much as I really don't want to take on that project and spend another $20 to $30 or $40,000 on such a project, we're going to have to do it someday. So I throw it out there. So I see this going one or two ways. We either focus on that parcel immediately and deal with specifically that issue. And if we do that, we would take that component and then, of course, apply that to a future comprehensive plan. But otherwise, we look at the.
In my opinion, I would prefer we look at this parcel, because that's more immediate than the longer, bigger picture. We have interest, we have people in the audience, I think might have significant interest in that area. So that's up to council. Tom?
Why is this moving off project? The people that I've talked to in this front, they don't want that housing, they're not against housing.
Well, we've already said that's not going to happen, so that's off the table. So let's cut that.
They'd rather have a park
Rehash
down
that.
there, they'd rather have a park down there or sell it lots.
That's exactly what we want to get to. What do you want to do otherwise? Moving out is off the table at this point. So That's not to rehash something that's not happening. Aaron?
Well, I was a council member in the memo that said, suggested that we have some community forums and discussion groups. We just recently talked about the dog park, and some of the emails I received indicated that people said, well, we didn't know you were talking about the dog park. We have 2,111 people in this city, and you would think that 2,111 people should know everything about what's going on in this small city, but that's not the case. And we as a council and members of the population have come to our meetings and talked about the Omaha property. But I would dare say that there are a number of other people in our community that have no knowledge about that property, what to do with it, their dreams and hopes and ideas. And so my thought is this. One, we would have, first of all, that we would have 2 to 3 meetings. One would be simply the first one, an information session, just saying, okay, this is the property that we have, this is owned by the city, this is the square footage, these are some of the thoughts that have been put out, have been suggested up until this point about potential use of the Omaha property, getting everyone on the same page. And then a second and possibly third community meeting to say, okay, given that, what are some viable plans for developing this property? Viable plans, constructive ideas that can be things that potentially would be revenue producing in terms of taxes, or if in fact the community says, no, we only want that to be a park, well, then, let's hear from them. So that was my idea in terms of how to move forward. Because I'm not sure that we as a council, even with a number of people who have come and have talked to us about the Omaha property, have all the information about what people in our community believe with that Omaha property. Some talk about it as a jewel that needs to be preserved. Others say it needs to be developed so it's income producing, and everything in between. I think we need to hear from the residents to see what that is. And, we may come out of that with just, so many different ideas, and then we still can't decide. But it's at least a step. And I'm not sure that we as a council really have a clear picture, and I don't, as a council person, I can't speak for anybody else, have a clear picture in terms of what to do with that.
John?
I agree that we need to do some visioning. My only concern is, that our comp plan is, I don't want to do comprehensive planning.
I wasn't suggesting.
No, I know, but I'm saying, I was involved in the first comprehensive planning. Mary and I's first intimate, fun we had was that time. But I feel like, the only problem that I see is when you look at a piece like that and you don't look collectively across what else is going on, it's hard to say, well, you could do housing here or here instead of here. So it's hard to piece it. That is my only concern. So I feel like at some point we have to expand that look a little bit in order to be able to really find out what's viable there. And so that's why I'm a little reluctant to just look specifically at that. If we truly are at a comprehensive planning turnaround where we need to do that, do we just embark on that and say, let's just do it? That's my comments on that.
What do you?
I'm throwing that out there that I'm concerned. I'm concerned of taking a piecemeal look at it because I feel like there's going to be a lot of folks in our community because affordable housing, we all recognize that was a need, right? And so when you look at that piece of ground and you say, well, we could do it here, it'd also be at that same time nice to say, well, here are there other places where maybe we can do that in our community. Mm-hmm. And if we're not looking at that, it's very difficult to be able to do that. So that's I'm with you that we have plans that sit on the shelf, and I get that, but there's also a value. There's a really big value to doing that comprehensive planning if it's done right. We have a lot of information already, so it shouldn't be like a huge redo. There can be a focus on that. Oh my God, no, I'm sorry, but that's just my solid opinion on it because piecemealing stuff is difficult.
But I believe that if we enter into that type of public discussion that Karen has mentioned, suggested, those topics will come up. And looking into your plan, and we can discuss it there.
We can, as long as we're open to that, and as long as we, because I really feel like we can't just say, oh, sorry, yeah, can't, you know.
I'm
because
sorry,
it
I
has
left
to-
that impression.
Yeah, because it has to be, at some level, it has to be bigger, because if not, you can't really get an idea what you want to do on that piece of property without looking at the other properties across the.
It's not that property part of the TIF district?
Yes.
So, in a sense, we've already made a decision on what we're gonna do. We're going to develop that property in some way, shape, or form. So,
The whole piece of it, or just part of it, that's the question.
That's up to the city council.
That's up to the city council, so I don't think that's actually been decided. I think that when the TIF district was determined, it wasn't for maybe the entire
we've used
acreages.
that, we've used money for the TIF district, right? I mean, we committed.
We hope to use, we hope the TIF district will generate funds for other uses. As vacant land, it is not.
If I can
Yes.
update. In 2015, correct, the city created TIF District number 3. And we identified a variety of vacant and underutilized parcels that time we felt were the prime candidates for development or redevelopment. That parcel, that block area is included in that as an area for potential development that could generate $50 for us, which are used for a variety of different eligible projects. I am very careful not to overextend our TIF districts. The only expense that we have in the TIF district number 3 currently is the broke down project. Otherwise, we do not have any other expenses, and I will not recommend that we do any other expenses without revenue generating offsets to that.
Because there were several other areas that we established as TIF districts too, right?
It is gerrymandered like a Texas congressional.
Right. So I mean, I guess, I'm not so sure that statement's correct, that at that time, it was one of those areas that was undeveloped. It wasn't like that, we were like, oh, that 8 acres definitely all has to be developed. I don't think that was the.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Expressed.
It has public space. It had public space, multi-use in it. So that's just what I wanted to correct with that statement.
Any other?
You've done visioning before, right? You've had to look at some of the old. So, and how, was it productive to gather, what did it look like?
The most recent was probably the West part.
Yeah.
And I'd have to honestly say, as being part of that process and having hired the team that we did, I think we lost control of it after a way, because when you look at how the plan came out, it basically was shut the park down for 2 years, redo the whole thing, and put water, sewer and electric, and the possibilities of doing that were non-existent. So we've sort of picked apart some of the pieces in that plan. Certainly now West End Boat Launch, everybody agreed on that. Where to put, it got really tedious though. Where do you put the volleyball court, and where did you put the horseshoe pit? And, So I do believe we have some people capable of doing these gatherings in our community, so we wouldn't be spending the 20, 30, and the 40.
That was my next question. Why did it cost that much?
It's a long process. Scott.
I would say that the visioning process for that parcel could be done at a much less expensive effort. The comprehensive plan is a state law that requires us to review various elements, utilities, recreation, there's like a dozen transportation, there's like a dozen different elements that have to individually be looked at in the entire community. There's a lot of charts and graphs and pictures. Those sorts of things. Because most of the processes out there have a lot of community forms. A lot of them now, they're trying to actually take push it into the community. Even council members don't have a lot of input in that process. They're really trying to make it a community-focused effort is kind of the current trend. But the expenses hiring the consultants to put it all together and prepare that for us.
Well, the state has to prove finally that this is a valid comprehensive plan.
But now that we have one, it should be easier to update it versus starting from scratch. Because, you think to someone, because it was mandated because nobody had those. So everybody had to go back.
So this would be making adjustments to try to simplify and then just having it reviewed, would that be possible? I mean, that potentially cost a lot less.
No,
And then it would be efficient.
You have to go through the full process.
Because we'd still be talking about public lands, which will change.
This is what we're talking about tonight is a wholly different animal. Aaron, you wanted to say something?
Well, I was just curious how we feel like we're going to establish what our needs are. If we have like if we have the open forum, people will come with their interests, but not necessarily everyone or people with particular needs of the city. But when you said the housing is a need, we have one person come to the podium and say that, even though we all know that that's much greater than one person. So I worry going forward, or I guess my concern is, how do we make sure that we're actually assessing the needs of the city and not the wants of the city?
And also that with the understanding that we may say we want hotel, recreation park, slide, whatever there, but if there's no developer that comes forward with room to do that, you can want all you want, right? It's not going to happen if someone comes forward and wants to do a project. Yes, Karen.
I'm not suggesting that my idea is there are limitations of that. You get what you get by whoever comes in the door. And that's what open process, that's a dilemma of open process. And I didn't really flesh it out with much detail in terms of who might be able to do it, what kind of format we would use, how much that might cost. The reason I'm even suggesting it is that it would give us an ability, hopefully, to move another step forward. Because I think we're stuck right now. And I can figure out another idea in terms of how to get us unstuck. And so, I guess, I threw it out there to see if the council thought that was a workable idea. And then, if there's another council person that's interested in this, we could flesh it out in more detail and bring it back at the June council meeting to say, okay, this is what it might look like. This is how we might structure it so that we can get, input and stuff. But, there's no guarantee if you do those kind of open forums that you're going to be represented.
But the point to do though is when you do those, it's either put up or shut up. You either show up at the meeting, and if you don't, you shut up. And that would be my take on this, and that's what sort of that broad idea of great. I like that because everybody right now feels invested in it. And we hear from whoever we hear from. But unless you come to the meetings, say we have those together. First one, everybody needs to be on the same page, just like you said. Then you do the other two with somebody here that kind of directs things and doesn't have this turn into a wild shootout.
Well, you have to have a good
facilitator. But at that point, that's when you hear from. I would expect to hear from everybody, and if they don't,
it would be nice to think we want to hear from nearly everyone, but no matter, you have to be realistic, no matter what, there's those who say, I didn't know about it. That's the fact. We just have
You
to
know
accept
what?
that.
I know, and I'm totally you, and I've been, every one of us has been through it in one way or another, through schools or PTA meeting or whatever. The bottom line is, it goes out there in the newspaper and it tells the population, keep your eye on Facebook, keep your eye on the agenda that's coming out. Because at some point, we have to take it off our shoulders and throw it back onto the people who is the community.
And I think that's what I needed, and that's why I made the motion at 2 meetings ago to not move forward, because I was not comfortable, because I had our whole business alliance, there was tons of people here from businesses that were the ones who would be supposedly, have a great asset to a housing development across there, and they were not in favor of that. And so at that time, I was like, we need to figure out what our community wants in there. And I feel like there's a couple ways to do that. You either do a big visioning session of update our comprehensive plan, or we go specifically on this piece of ground. And as I stated before, I think it's a little difficult to do a small piece. I'd settle for that if I had to. And I think that we need to work on getting a facilitator and get some different ideas on how we would go about that. And I don't think you have time to do that, so
No.
I like your idea of doing a small committee.
My question is this, what would, excuse me, my question is this, what would it cost the city to send a letter in the water bills that this is coming down?
Put it in the water pump.
We could easily put it in water, that doesn't cost anything.
They still don't.
As witty as I attempt to be in my letter, people don't.
If you go forward with this, we'd make every effort through a variety of different mechanisms. We have a utility bill going out at the end of June. We do notices in the newspaper, we can do Facebook posts. And of course, there's always bill word of mouth and notices around town too. So we do a variety of mechanisms to advertise whichever method we choose at very minimal.
Then I make a motion, you carry on with Karen's idea.
Well, I'm not quite sure.
Where is the action on here?
Yes, I'm not sure what we're taking back.
This is,
Well, I recommended that we consider holding a series of community forums, up to 3, to discuss possible ideas and dreams ideas for the Omaha Street property. And it would also include other properties at the city.
Karen has brought this forward. I'd like to suggest that maybe Karen meet with myself and the administration to flesh this out, bring it back to the next meeting in a better form, if this is the direction you'd like to go with. I think that's what Scott's asking for, what direction do you want to go with?
And that's
And so then we could continue this, or if you want to make a committee, then it's an open meeting. You have to have regular post all those meetings. Either way.
I make a motion to what? You made the motion, so right?
No, Tom started.
I mean, we don't even have to make a motion
No, we don't have to.
necessarily. If we just-
I'd like to support you in that, because I think it's going to be a mess. I think we need to look at the picture.
So you're just looking at agreeing where
How-
we can
how to
look
get
at,
community
flesh this out. Okay. Someone
If there was-
requests that you open the floor. Desire to open the floor.
I move to open the floor.
Second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Please come forward, state your name and your address. Speak loudly, please.
Yeah, my name is Ross Edwards. I live at 221 West 5th Street. So I'm always for any measure that opens up the availability to the public to make comments on these very important decisions. However, to me, we kind of keep getting ourselves into a similar, or if not the same dilemma, which essentially is visioning workshops are fairly sparse.
they generally do not represent the majority of people in this town. So I would just like to propose an alternative. Perhaps, this could be one method that we take. But in my experience in writing consulting reports, one valuable tool is a survey. So I would say the place to start would be a public survey. A carefully written questionnaire survey that goes out to everybody. So everybody has to give feedback. Also, I always appreciate the opportunity in these city council meetings to make comments. But this is such an important issue, I think it would also merit a public hearing. And a public hearing is different from the public forums and the visiting workshops that we so often have. That it's legally run in a legal way. And everybody can go forward and put in their opinion. So I think this is an important enough issue that would merit that. The key point I do believe is the point that Jim shared, is that we need to look at the waterfront as a whole. And to take one very valuable and key piece of land and to look at it out of context, I think would be to make a mistake. So there's one good place where the city can invest money, in my mind, would be to revise and update the housing.
Thank you.
Because we do have one opportunity to do that, and so we want to get it right. One final point is, if I may, one councilor made a point regarding developing the land above the boat dock, West End Park for RV site. This is just practical. It's something that we can do a little thing, non-controversial. I don't think you're going to have very many people that would oppose that because it's a source of revenue. It's fairly easily, we need to do due diligence as always, but we could do that. And it would be one small step forward that I think would pay dividends and would bring needed revenue and would begin to solve some of these problems that we're talking about.
Just for information, if we expanded RV parking, you have to add bathrooms. That's why the county rules something which is very expensive. So it's not sort of like the money just starts flowing in.
No,
you have to spend money to actually get to that. So just there's no simplistic answer here. And I guess I would say I would be willing to bet there are some people who would not be in favor of RV parking there. That's my speculation.
No,
So, okay.
I don't know that I would be either, but I would be in favor of developing that land in some way to bring it up. But I did read your piece, and I do respect your position.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a motion to close the floor? Second? Anyone second that? Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So we're just going to, by agreement, look into fleshing this out and bringing back council. Very good. So there's no action being taken on that. Thank you. The next is discussion and action on ordinance 19-004, amending city code for enforcement to be consistent with the statutory changes. Process for city attorney.
They're just in our ordinance, some references to state statutes that no longer exist. As I come across them, I just send those over to update them. There's no substantive change. Another one that's coming is a weed commissioner ordinance. It's a statute. Statute references have changed.
So is there a motion to approve this 19-004?
Yes.
I so move.
Second? Second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion and action on resolution 19-005, update information for Wisconsin Public Employees Group Health Insurance Program. There's an interesting commentary by our city administrator in the packet.
Mr. Mayor, I think we can bypass the city administrator on this issue because we know exactly how he feels. I move that we approve resolution 19-005 to update information for the Wisconsin Public Employee Group Health Insurance Program.
The second.
Second.
Any other questions or comments?
Oh, no.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have alcohol licensing matter, the introduction of annual alcohol and beer garden license renewal application. Every year we have that. What action do we take on? Accept that.
No, there's a motion. Mayor, I would make a motion that we approve the alcohol license renewal list for publication, authorize staff to begin the administrative process.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, I was lost. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have bartender license renewal applications number 21-1 through 21-12.
So
Motion to approve. There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And next, we have new bartender license application number 20-56 through 20-61.
So moved.
Is there just one on here? Has this one been paid? That's not paid?
Pardon?
Is the one that's not been paid?
Oh, they'll pay for it when they pick it up.
Okay.
Danny wouldn't let them out the door.
They, we tend to, when they renew them, if they're individuals, we will charge for them all at once. If the businesses are gonna pay for them along with their license renewals, they'll pay for them all.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone have a motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn. 20 after, not even 20 hours.